All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Decentraland Game Expo. We are so excited. This is our panel titled Mastering the Fun Factor, What Makes a Web3 Game Engaging. So it looks like we are live. We are streaming into Decentraland as well as on X, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So hi, everyone. I'm Kim Currier. I'm the head of partnerships and marketing at the Decentraland Foundation. And this is our Game Expo, which is a 4-day event just celebrating the fun of Web3 gaming. And so we have some really exciting partners here with us today. I will let you all do your intros. So if you can introduce yourself, how long you've been in Web3, and share a little bit about the game you're representing today. Want to start with you, Simon?
Thanks, Kim. Well, firstly, this is so exciting to be here. I'm Simon, co-founder of Uforika. So I know we're going to swing by our booth at some point during this panel today. But for right now, my personal background is in tech. That's where I spent the majority of my career. Web3 journey started really around 2020. Having awareness of it from a corporate perspective in the tech space at the time, exploring blockchain from a supply chain logistics perspective. But in my personal life, I'm a huge gamer, always have been. So the convergence of gaming and the tech combined with it in this ecosystem really was the inspiration that drove us forwards to create Uforika. So super excited to get into this panel today. There's some amazing panelists on here, and we are absolutely going to have a ton of fun discussing the fun. So yeah, excited for this, guys.
Glad to have you. Hubert, you want to jump in?
Sure thing. Yeah, I'm Hubert Cumberdale, the game director for DeFi Kingdoms. I have been in Web3 just, I guess, with the onset of the creation of DeFi Kingdoms in 2021, though I have been in and out of the crypto world from maybe about 2018. My background is in engineering, and it's been very fun to work on this project, to work in this world. It's very different than anything I've experienced in the past. There's a lot of new angles that you have to think about, and when you're designing things and how to make things work in a way that's balanced and fair and safe for everybody. It's very tricky, but I think very rewarding as well. As it kind of opens up a whole new avenue of things. So I'm excited for this panel, and I think it's going to be really fun. So thank you.
Awesome. And Antonio?
Hi, everyone. I'm Antonio, and I might not have the most, crazy background like these guys. My background is actually very boring. I come from pure statistics, but I've been in marketing for a few years now, and today I'm representing Planet Mojo as the head of marketing. And again, never a boring day in Web3, especially in Web3 gaming. Every day is different. You never know what will come next. But yeah, I'm super happy to be here with Decentraland. We can see what's going on here in Decentraland. But yeah, super excited for today's discussion.
Awesome. And I'd love to do a quick gut check. Have any of you been in Decentraland prior to this event? Yes. Awesome. Love to see it. Well, then I hope you have your avatars ready. It is going to be 4 days of fun and exploration. But let's kick this conversation off. It looks like all of our streams are working. So hi to all 200 of you joining in. If anyone is watching on one of our social platforms, we really appreciate you resharing this to get it out to the broader Web3 community. But we are diving in on mastering the fun factor. We are also live in Decentraland. So if anyone would love to bring their avatar in and walk around with us, we are at 081, which is the main Game Expo Plaza, which is what you see here streamed from our producer. So the team is hanging out and they are ready to welcome in anyone that is new. All right, so let's get started. My first question for all of you before we start heading to your booths is just like, why Web3 gaming? Like, what made you interested in kind of this sector, and what about it feels special to you? I will kick it off to Antonio.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing question. And I would say that it all starts from gaming itself, right? That's why we're here. We're like lifelong gamers, not only myself in Planet Mojo too. We have people Mike, for example, he's from LucasArts, many years. We have people from EA, Activision. So we come from gaming to begin with, and to be in Web3 gaming now feels like, you know, the natural evolution. And as I always say, it's something that we're building for the players. We are players ourselves, and to be able to build some tech that basically supports the player, you know, is something cool, because we understand how beneficial it can be in the first place. You know, I always make these examples. I kind of make them basically every space I've been through. So sorry if you've already seen this or heard this. But how many times has it occurred that, you know, you start playing a game and your friends, you know, really get you to buy this, and then like a week later, hype has worn down, and there you are, like alone on the game. So what if you could have some tech, and in this case blockchain, in which you can maybe jump off that game and go towards somewhere else? And that's one thing. A lot of people bring up other examples when it comes to digital assets and stuff that NFTs as a whole unlock, and I'm sure that there's a million other use cases, right? So of course, not every gamer might have the best idea around NFTs, especially right now, but it is something that we are building to enhance an experience, to enhance gaming in general. That's why, as a lifelong gamer, I feel like that's something cool to be building, you know, from the ground up, because we are definitely early. It might be some buzzword, but it's definitely true, right? We are early. So I don't know if the panel agrees, but that's my perspective on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I swear it's the most famous saying in Web3 is you are early. So everyone here can give yourself a good congratulations for being part of that early adopter crew. Simon, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, look, I mean, firstly, it's just so cool. I'm seeing somebody playing Pong right now, just down in the lobby, and you know, look, to Antonio's point, I think there's some really interesting technical dynamics actually, which is what makes Web3 so compelling from the player's perspective. And I think if you sort of think back to, I guess, a kind of gaming history or a gaming context, you know, as things have evolved and, you know, player accounts have become more established and people take more ownership of assets within a game, you know, having that transparent capability utilizing blockchain to be able to transfer those elements and items of value, and for the player to recognize that individually, I think, you know, that's one of a key benefit to why Web3 gaming is very interesting from a player's perspective. I also think as well, you know, there's a number of dynamics that you can start to play with around that concept of decentralized identity from a player perspective, looking at how a player progresses within a game, how you track the in-game data that then is validated on the blockchain. So you know that the player that has achieved X actually is the player that has achieved X milestone within a game and is being rewarded, you know, fairly for that. So I think, you know, as Antonio said, it's really a combination of all of the technical elements combined that really take gaming to the next level. And I know we still talk about it being Web3 gaming right now. I think as things progress in the future, it just will become gaming. It will sort of be absorbed into the wider, broader gaming landscape. So I think there's lots of exciting things when you are building at this stage, when it is so early. I think the other thing to mention is that from our perspective, Web3 has given us the opportunity to come in. You know, we're not a huge, massive studio with a absolutely wild budget behind us. So what Web3 gaming has allowed for are those indie studios to really express themselves, be very agile in their game production, and be able to bring real quality out to a player base that would be, you know, really, really tough to access in the traditional sense. So I think all of those elements combined from the player perspective and the developer perspective make this a hugely exciting time to be building gaming right now in this space.
Definitely. And Hubert, why are you excited to be building Web3 games today?
Well, I think Antonio and Simon both took a lot of the key points, and I just don't want to echo everything that they said, but I agree with everything they did say. I guess just to add to that, one thing that's really exciting about Web3 is that, even within your own game, you can build, everything that you build, but it also, because of its decentralized nature, allows other third parties to be able to utilize the tokens, the resources, the content that you bring into the game world and into their own third party things. And we've seen that with DeFi Kingdom. Some of our players have built up their own little spin-offs of different things. And I guess that spirit of collaboration, that spirit of being able to, you can take this and use it in a different way. Perhaps it's not going to be completely access to everything when it comes to NFT data, perhaps, but it does open a lot of avenues for just things to grow organically as a community, as just all people within the Web3 space are able to kind of interact with what we have. And that's something that's very unique that you don't really see in the Web2 world right now. So I think just to add on to what's already been said, I think that's just one other aspect that's really exciting.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. I think we'd love to jump around to kind of see your booths and learn a little bit more about each of your games. So let's start with Simon over at Uforika. We are going to jump over to his booth, which is at -189, I believe. So I will drop that in the chat. So if you are in Decentraland, -189 is where we are heading. So you can walk your avatar over, or you can teleport in and just give it a minute for the scene to load, because these are big, beautiful neon scenes coming in. And then Simon, as we're walking through this, can you tell the community, assume they don't know Uforika, what is it, what type of gameplay, and kind of what can they expect from your booth?
Sure. Well, firstly, and I said it, when we were backstage, but thanks so much to the Decentraland team for supporting us getting this booth up and running. It just really pops, and we're really thrilled with it. So thank you for that. So Uforika started really it was conceptualized back end of 2021. And the overarching vision was that we wanted to create more of a gaming ecosystem. Multi-chain has always been a vision for us, but we ultimately define it across 4 key pillars. We've got Ride to Survive, which is, you can see that on my background behind me, but also the top of the booth there, you can see the word Ride to Survive. So this is our hoverboard battle race game. This was a title that was inspired by titles like Wipeout, Super Mario Smash Brothers, Mario Kart. We're very fortunate to have a very experienced gaming team who have worked on some significant AAA titles. So if we're just heading over there, there's a little bit of sort of earlier gameplay footage just running through now that people can take a look at. But this is a PvP hoverboard battle race game. So the motivation for the player is that you obviously want to set the fastest lap time, but you want to collect as much weapons and inventory to cause as much carnage to your opponent as you can as you race round. And ultimately, that is the core gaming experience that we're building out, and we're moving in to a very exciting state at the end of this week where we move into our closed alpha, which is super exciting for us. Then the second pillar we have are the Coltax. So if you sort of circle around to the right here, there we go. So the Coltax are the nefarious alien creatures from the lore that is within Uforika. And this is where we start to now play with hybrid assets. So anybody that's just tracking the space and has been really since probably December will have become aware of concepts like 404, for example, but that's just one type of hybrid asset. So for us, the Coltax is the artistic representation of the asset, but it enables us to really start playing with how we utilize digital assets within the gaming context, and how you can enroll ultimately a swap function for the user so they can play with either holding the NFT element or a tokenized element of that, which gives us some interesting dynamics when we think about rewards and how that operates within the game itself. And then one of the third pillar we have is just the world itself. So this is, and I referenced a little bit of this earlier on, we really are playing with concepts of decentralized identity, exploring how you can knit multi-chain elements and identity elements together so you can take the user on a journey through different worlds and knitting that with our lore that then takes you into the gaming journey, takes you into the asset journey. And then our fourth pillar is the Origin series. So this is our Origin series comic book. We're all very creatively driven as a team. We've all loved comic books growing up, so we wanted to weave that into what we were doing in some way. And so we do have an Origin Series 23-page comic book, which was artistically designed by a very talented gentleman called Jonathan Kolsch, who has worked on Marvel and DC and many, many others. So really, those are the components that make up our world. And they are really wonderfully expressed on the booth here. So it's been really exciting for us to put this together and be able to showcase some gameplay content and more content that really makes up the components of our world. And if you, I think we were just on the booth there on the left in the cubes on the left-hand side, that's where you can go and check us out across our social channels. So of course, we're on X, we're in Discord, and we're in Telegram. So you can find all of those channels just there if you want to get to know us a little bit closer.
Perfect. Thank you. And I love the community looking at their outfits in here, and they're all dancing around in front of your video. If anyone hasn't been in yet, if you stand in front of the video, you can hear like the full trailer from Uforika as well. And then on the left, there's a link to jump over to their website. So super exciting to have you here and like bring you into this Decentraland universe. I know we were thinking about this, and the idea originally came up around having these booths after we were at GDC this year. So I can't remember if any of you were at GDC. I know we didn't run into each other, but just this idea of like, how can we make booths more fun? And like having our community come in and interact with them in a fun way has just been eye-opening to say what else is possible in the future. So a great opportunity to just start here for our first event and see where we can go from there.
Yeah, it's been super fun to be a part of, and look, this is what virtual worlds can give you. It really expands the imagination and enables you to do things that you just can't do physically. So yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah, and I think too, we have such a global audience, as I'm sure many of you do for your games, and being able to allow those fans to come in no matter what time of day it may be for them and jump in and kind of integrate with their favorite brands and their favorite games is always a lot of fun. And do it with friends, because we always say, our community says all the time, the metaverse is better with friends. And I think that's the same with gaming as well. All right, let's make our next stop. We're going to head over to the DeFi Kingdoms booth, and that is -680. So we are going to venture over a little bit. So a hack you'll see our team doing here is you could just type the coordinates into the chat and click it as a teleport, and it'll teleport you over. Or you can just walk and explore, which is kind of my favorite way to go walk around. Just give it a second, walk back, walk forward, and it'll load. And we can jump in. And Hubert, would love to hear you talk a little bit more about DeFi Kingdoms, how it came to be, the type of gameplay, and what's happening here in your booth.
Sure. And I also echo our thanks for the great effort put into like creating this booth. It looks great. We really appreciate that bloater mask that you can get right there. You can actually see my avatar standing right next to it. I'm standing on that LinkedIn box. But yeah, so DeFi Kingdoms started out as an idea of, using Web3 technology, we can take kind of your typical MMORPG experience, where you have your character, it has its stats, it has you're collecting items and doing all these things that you typically do in an RPG, fight monsters, progress story, all that. Take that and move it into the Web3 space, where every item that you get is an actual asset that you could trade for for anything in the the crypto space. Your NFT is a hero, or your NFTs are heroes that you can use in the game that have their own stats, that can level up, that can interact with this world and be something that as you can grow it, in the future, if you wanted to like trade it with others for other things, you can do that. And then with all of that idea, also like mixing it in with like the world of DeFi and how we can kind of gamify some of the elements of the DeFi world. So we have things that link in with like a decentralized exchange, being able to get rewards by participating in that, and also using your heroes to kind of increase the rewards that you get. But beyond that, it's a game that's been developed in real time, and so we've just been adding content ever since its inception in 2021. It started out very simple as just being able to create heroes, which heroes themselves have some pretty deep mechanics in terms of how they're created. And they kind of have like a mutation mechanic where you use 2 heroes to summon a new hero. And there's like, with that, you have chances of getting like higher rarity heroes, different types of heroes that you didn't start with. They can kind of mutate into, like, you can get dark knights or paladins that start from like knights and warriors and things like that. So it has this big hero generation element. We've recently gotten to the point where we've introduced our combat system. So on that video there, you can see, let's see, right now it's showing summoning, it's showing our hero cards, some of the questing elements. There's the combat engine. So right now we're working on a player versus player system that will be launching on the Metis chain. We are also a cross-chain game. We have our own subnet on Avalanche, the DeFi DFK chain, and then we also are on Clayton. And we'll soon be moving into Metis for the PvP offering. But on each chain, they all have their unique identity. We have a specific part of the DeFi Kingdom's world that is represented on that chain. And we have, you know, unique content on each chain that's going to continue to grow and grow as we continue our development. But yeah, I mean, it's in terms of gameplay though. I mean, if you've played turn-based RPGs from like the Super Nintendo era, that's where most of us on the team are in our late 30s and have a lot of nostalgia from that era. And so a lot of what we do is channeling, you know, our childhoods into this game. So we have a great team of artists, a great sound composer, a music composer that like if you play the game, I really love our music, and I'm really excited for what we have coming out soon. Yeah, I think you know, it's a game, like I said, we are developing it real time, so it's just we're always adding more. There's so much more on the roadmap that has yet to be released. So you know, if you join us now, you can get in early and, you know, get in on all the new content as it comes out.
I am dying watching all of these people with "You're a Little Bloater Head." It is hilarious. That is such a good idea for a wearable. It's so cute. And I know the community is so excited to have it. So thank you for participating in that giveaway for everyone. This is just so fun. I know you were saying your community is a lot of, and your team, a lot of like people in their 30s, nostalgia. And I think that's really popular and common in Web3 gaming, what I'm seeing, especially in Decentraland too. That's kind of the core audience we have as well. And so being able to see people come in and really hit on the nostalgia while also doing it with their friends and their community is what I think makes gaming a ton of fun, and events like this a lot of fun. So thank you for participating, and good luck with all of the game development. All right, let's move on over. We are going over to Antonio's exhibit, which is Planet Mojo at 780, to learn a little bit more about what Planet Mojo is building. And then we are going to dive into some more questions about the industry as a whole. So if you are jumping in, I'm seeing some questions. We are on desktop client or web browser. If you're using a web browser, we recommend Opera GX for the best experience in loading. We are at 081 is the whole plaza. And right now we are at the Mojo Melee 780. So you can follow us along in Worlds. We'd love to see your avatars, all your gamer inspired looks. There is a contest happening on Twitter right now too. So you can win some mana for some of the best looks that we're seeing today. You'll also see there's a lot of amazing emotes. This one you'll see on the screen, the shooting emote here. And then we have the one that is the gamer sitting and playing. Both of those are emotes you can claim throughout this event. So there's daily quests, and there is a big giant claw that's part of it where you can win some wearables in the center of the event. So lots to do here, but let's jump in. Antonio, tell us a little bit more about Planet Mojo.
Well, first I need to tell people what the experience was from the beginning, you know, like huge thanks to you and Bay for setting it all up, you know, the back and forth to get the booth. up and running. It was an experience, but it all paid out. It's beautiful, and it's the vibes on Decentraland in these activations. We can all feel them, so it was definitely worth it. But when it comes to Planet
Decentraland is
Mojo,
always
yeah, please go.
we say the Decentraland is always a vibe. The community brings the A+ energy every time.
Exactly, and it's all community, right? And when it comes to Planet Mojo, we are working on a Web3 ecosystem of games and on-chain activities. So when it comes to the game side of things, we are not funneling our energy towards one single genre of games. So as you can see from the booth, you can see on the right the characters that make up your teams in Mojo Melee. That is our auto chess battler, and it's about to see its mobile global release very soon. And again, it's an auto chess, so on mobile you can consider this as a mid-core game. And on the other side, instead, you will see that we have Go Mojo, and that's an endless runner game. So it's more on the hyper casual side of things. Both you can see them and play them as of right now on browser on play.planetmojo.io, and you have the button here in Decentraland in the booth along with the socials and so on. But as I was saying, we have an ecosystem of games in which we want to draw in, not only one genre of users, of gamers. And on top of that, we have an upcoming action RPG title built in Unreal Engine 5, by which, we'll be able to capture all this audience, and myself included, that really love RPG games. And, we've seen it left and right. All the chess battlers, I'm a big fan, honestly, but that's only for a selected part of users, right? Same thing with hyper casual. It's not everybody's thing. And then on the other side, we have the action RPG. And when it all comes together, you have all this different like cohorts of people, users interacting, especially on our social media channels, on our Discord hangouts, so on and so forth. And they feed into each other's ideas when it comes to, it can be game design, just like social activations, right? And when this cross-pollination happens, I think the beautiful thing happens, right? And we get back to the community vibes we were talking about in the Decentraland. But yeah, and like one cool thing I wanted to showcase are the Mojos themselves. Those are our main characters and the protectors of the world that is Planet Mojo. And you can see them on the little cubes. And they are those little cute, funny creatures that wander around Planet Mojo. And I personally, I'm very fond of these like cute IPs, and I think, and it's very cool to explore IP in general. I think in our in Web3 gaming and Web3 in general, and there are cool things we have coming up. I cannot spoil too much, but we have a partnership to bring those to life. So you will see how we can basically bring to life some digital IP like the Mojos with toys, and back with little QR codes on the toys themselves, by which you can mint NFTs and you can mint little wearables on the Mojo. Because as you can see, there's different costumes that they're wearing, and you can play and mismatch hairstyles, costumes, shoes, and so on and so forth. And all of this is happening on chain on our Mojo Maker. So it's all it will soon be all NFTs that you can trade back and forth. You can acquire whatever you like the most. And again, maybe last thing I should mention is that we do believe in a multi-chain future. So yeah, people believe in decentralization, obviously, but at the same time, they don't really want to be constrained, right? It's not like I need to bridge necessarily there to go and do this thing. And that's why we believe in a multi-chain approach as of right now. But this is Planet Mojo, and you can see the social links on the left, just like the play button, because you can go and play Go Mojo and Mojo Melee right now. Or you can just sit there in front of the Mojos and enjoy the Decentraland booth. So both are very worth it experience right now.
I love the cute characters. It's so fun playing with different IP. So I can imagine all of the fun NFTs coming your way. I think this is so great, and seeing all of your booths. So if anyone hasn't checked out the booths yet, make sure you go explore. We will continue exploring the fairgrounds as we talk, but I would love to, given the topic of mastering the fun factor, what makes it engaging, I would love to hear from you all. How are you incentivizing players and getting them to come back and continually engage with your game over time? Whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in to start us off in this one. Give Antonio a break as well. He's just walked us through his amazing booth, so he probably needs to take a breather. A Hubert as well, the DeFi Kingdom's booth, looking awesome too. So that was really cool to see. I think this is a fascinating question, right? And it's actually been, I think, one of Web3 gaming's biggest challenges to date is that user retention piece. I think we've seen variations of games where, for whatever reason, the genre doesn't quite click, or it's the focus initially was too heavily on the financial side of things and the monetization side of things, which ultimately didn't really inspire fun gameplay, which is, from a gaming perspective, how you retain a user base. So I think we very much took the standpoint that we just wanted to make a fun game. That was the driving factor where we sort of started from. We knew that there was a ton of value that blockchain technology could bring to that player base, and applying that within the game world was going to be key. But our real motivation was to just make a fun game, because we took it from a standpoint of being players ourselves. I referenced some of the titles that we all took huge inspiration from, and that was purely because those were titles that we all loved playing when we were younger and still do now. And the reason we love playing them so much is because we engage with the IP. Antonio was talking about IP, and really that is a driving force that retains a user base as well, because if you engage with something where you like the characters, you like the story, that's a reason to get you connect or keep you connected with the game, even when you're not playing it. So I think there's a lot of territory to be explored that hasn't been explored yet in Web3 around that whole concept. But I think first and foremost for us, it's just about creating a fun gameplay experience. And, look, we're a race game. So in that genre, you get a very concentrated dopamine hit in that sense, because, it's a very adrenaline filled gameplay experience, very concentrated, a 3-lap race. So there is a slight addictive element to that. I loved Mario Kart growing up and still do. And with my children now, we play Mario Kart. It's actually kind of a super simple mechanic if you think about it, but it's very addictive, but it's very engaging at the same time. And when you start adding all the characterization and the IP around it, that's how you retain a user base and how you get players coming back again and again and again and again, even playing the same maps over and over and over again, because everything can still be different, but there's a familiarity with the IP that you're engaging with. So that's just my take. I think placing the fun first is key, and then how you can weave the tech in to add value to the player is kind of that secondary thought that, again, is helping you as developers bring more value to your gaming world ultimately.
Anyone else want to jump in that? How do you kind of incentivize players and really have that long-term engagement within your gameplay?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
please go first, Hubert.
Okay, sorry, Antonio. Yeah, so for DeFi Kingdoms, as I mentioned before, we're going for more of like an MMORPG feel, which for anyone that has played other MMORPGs, like those worlds are very massive. They have a lot of different things that you can do, and we're trying to make sure we create various types of experiences that that cater to various players. Some can be very passive and just kind of do kind of our passive questing system, and just if that's all they want to do, that's all they need to do. Having a combat system is more for, you know, people that want to, you know, have that strategy kick, and be able to, you know, I think for me as well, that's where I found the most fun in RPGs, is just in the combat system. And like by bringing a PvP system out soon as well, you know, we're allowing people to compete with each other. And for retention, I think, you know, I agree 100% with Simon that, you know, it needs to be a fun game. There needs to be something that draws people in and keeps people coming. We do have a number of different reward mechanics to help, as far as like incentive goes, to help people stay engaged. We have like daily raffles that we do for participating in our Void Hunt system, which is like some very difficult combat content that against some monsters that we have available. You can get, we have sponsored raffles from other projects that that, you know, provide rewards that people can win every day, and that's only for people that actually win the Void Hunt. So it kind of creates this a gameplay loop for people to do. And as we build out further, PvP is going to have different tournaments that will have their own rewards. All of our heroes are they have equipment slots, so you can equip different weapons, different armor, and all of those things are NFTs. And the acquisition method for those also like comes from you know, doing Void Hunts, doing tournaments in the future. By participating in the game, you can get these pieces of equipment that are NFTs themselves that can be sold, which I think can be very compelling to players that, you know, just from the perspective of, you know, wanting to be the best, from the perspective of wanting to do any sort of like play to earn type of thing. I think with Web3, it really opens up a lot of avenues for, you know, people to explore the RPG realm in a different way. So that's kind of our approach. We're just always adding more systems for more players, and you know, looking at different ways we can incentivize those systems for our players. So that's it for me.
Definitely.
Over to you, Antonio.
Yeah, no, when it comes to my take on this, I think that there's so much to say. Like, first off, I cannot help but echo some of the takes from Simon, from you, Hubert, from when it comes to pure incentivization, right? You cannot just keep retention up by incentivizing people and that's it, right? You need to have a fun game at the base. Otherwise, you know, like, what's the point from the beginning? But still, I do think that incentivization is a very interesting topic. How I like to approach it, and how we like to approach it in Planet Mojo, is like fostering like this skilled gameplay. And if you think about this, you have ranked system all over the place in gaming, right? There's people that grind Rainbow Six, people that grind CS, League, TFT, whatever, right? And they do it just for the thrill of going to somebody else and say, hey, I'm Diamond, I'm Challenger, I'm something else, right? But when you add this extra layer of this, in which first off, you can verify that you are what you say you are, and second off, you have these distribution mechanisms for incentives that just were not there before in Web 2, right? That's why Web 3 enables something else that we didn't have before. And that's the first thing. So incentivization, sure, if done the right way. Otherwise, you end up, you know, bringing in an audience that doesn't really, you know, want to be there and will be somewhere else the minute that the incentives are not there anymore. And that's first thing. And then second thing is definitely the sense of community. I would say that that's definitely something that, you know, keeps people there. You know, there are games that have been around for years and years and years on end, but they're still active. Servers haven't shut down yet because there's still community there. And if somebody, you know, those people come back home from work, let's say, they call up their friends and they just want to hop onto that game still, maybe after years and years it's been out. So sense of community is definitely something that keeps people going. And our jobs definitely comprehend trying to foster that sense of community, whether it is through game design elements, whether it is through social activations, and so on and so forth. So that's where the magic happens, and we keep coming back to this. But yeah, I really believe that the true magic happens when you are sharing moments with your friends in game. If something cool happens and you're the only one witnessing it, sure, that single player experience, that's something extremely beautiful. But once you've experienced it, what you seek is sharing that experience with somebody else, sharing what you've seen, the stories, and what are your learnings from those stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of these are so spot on as to what we've been saying and have been hearing across many of our discussions with teams is like, number one, the game has to be fun. Web 2, Web 3, board game, doesn't really matter. If it's not fun, no one's going to want to come back. And so you need to create that initial fun factor. And then from there, you can build on it. So I think that's so true. And as we've been talking about community, I would love to hear from all of you. Knowing Web3, community is so central to what we're all building. How do you all incorporate feedback from your community to continually build upon something that they're all enjoying? I can flip it and start with Antonio this time.
I mute everyone on Discord and I ban them. No, I'm joking. I obviously community is center. Like we wouldn't be here without our community and our core community, right? Like if they are like people that flag bugs and like are like they feel something when helping us, and improve our game. They have feedback. They think, well, this could be a great addition to the game. And then it's up to us on like, grabbing that and implementing. So it is an addition that just cannot come from anywhere else. It's so invaluable in what it is. So community is definitely central to any gaming experience, from the gaming side, from people that build the game in itself. And again, I think it's about first off, like giving back to the community. So it's not only about like understanding, listening to them, but we are obliged we're obliged to communicate things around the game and around everything else that revolves around it, for starters, right? We owe to these people the dedication through the game in itself, but at the same time, we again, it's up to us to foster continuously ways for this community to come together, to welcome other communities, right? I tell this all the time to my community team, right? We're always open to welcoming community nights from other games in this ecosystem, and so on and so forth, because I still believe that like community in itself is one point, but on the other hand, we are still such a small subset of what gaming is in general that we end up having crossovers when it comes to users anyway, right? I wouldn't be surprised if some Planet Mojo players are Uforika players, or have been on DeFi Kingdoms, or have a Decentraland account, right? So it's up to us. And again, brings us back to the concept of ecosystem, right? It's up to us to give an experience in which people can jump around, enjoy benefits of being somewhere else, and we take care of each community by ourselves. But at the same time, we build this network in which people feel welcomed in this space, instead of like fighting with each other and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Simon, Hubert, anything you want to add there?
Well, I think that made me laugh when you said, Antonio. I just banned them all from Discord. I think we've all had days like that, I think, right? But I think what is interesting, which it kind of links to that side of things, is one of the fascinating things about Web3 gaming is that it's inevitable that you do attract a very broad subset of personas within your community, because you have those that are there because they're gamers and they're interested in the game and want to observe that progression. Then you have those that are perhaps more focused on the DeFi side of things, and they're looking at things through a slightly different lens. And so then you have, we're talking about incentivization earlier, and sometimes that can attract, just bounty hunters or the wrong kind of persona that, isn't going to stay with you for the long term. So you've got to balance all these different personas across the space. But I think what's a real advantage from a game developer's perspective is you do have the opportunity to build very openly and take feedback very openly and constructively, and are able to iterate on that feedback, which ultimately gives you the power of ensuring that the tweaks and the changes that you make within the game are demanded and wanted by your player base. And that doesn't always happen. If you think about traditional gaming, you can have a title that spends years and years and years in development, and then it launches, and then it flops because the user feedback is, oh, actually, I didn't enjoy that. So, what a waste. So in this kind of environment, what a gift it is to be able to build a community that can be very open in their feedback to you, because that is your superpower as a company, as a project, to have a community that are willing to give you that feedback that you can iterate on. So I think that is very unusual, but it's also very exciting to have that. And if you can really foster that core loyal fan base ultimately that are really engaging in all aspects of what you're doing, that can be something really, really powerful.
I guess I'll jump in here real quick. Echoing the sentiments from Simon and Antonio, I mean, community is absolutely key. Our community in DeFi Kingdoms has been with us since the very beginning, and we definitely keep our ear to the ground with them. We have weekly AMAs, Ask Me Anything events that we do, which a lot of the questions that we get are about like specific gameplay elements, and we have made adjustments or kind of implemented some features based on what we've gotten from the AMA. So we do try to keep like at least a weekly touch point with our community. And also when it comes to like having a strategy game, there's a huge onus on us to like keep things balanced and to make sure that it can stay fun for everyone. It's not just, one strategy wins all. So even just watching how our players are playing, even if it's not like direct feedback, that the feedback of what they're doing is very helpful for us to just be able to build a more balanced and fair and fun game for our players. So I think that's all I can really add. I think everyone else here has already added as much as anything else I could say. So.
I know it's probably hard to come up with an example on the spot, but I was just thinking, are there any situations or experiences where your community or players started doing something that was unexpected or not planned, but was such an amazing use case for your game or your community? One of the things I think about a lot is Decentraland has a ton of wearables, emotes. I believe it was a community member that initially started our Wearable Wednesday social campaign that was like, oh, let's start showing all our outfits on Wednesdays or promoting our new creations on Wednesdays. And it's just so fun to see in Web3 where you have so many makers and builders that they bring innovation and creativity every day. And so it's like you have an extension of your team in this space because there's so much creativity coming from the community itself and the willingness to do the work, which is so hard when you're coming from like big studios where everything's kind of locked and the community doesn't have as much access. So would love to hear if you have any examples of like where your community just kind of like took something and ran with it in a way that you were really excited.
Oh, which of us is going, Simon? I guess I'm gonna do it.
No, I was waiting for you, Hubert. I heard you breathe first, so you go for it, my friend.
Yeah. So on our end, I'd say pretty recently, one of the guilds in our community, the Mythic Squad, have taken our like player versus environment content, our void hunts, and created like PvP tournaments of a sort out of it, which was really unexpected. Essentially, making it so, okay, this fight is already hard, but there's these challenges beating it with this in this way with these heroes, or like you have to do it without using any potions or things like that. And trying to find like the best player that can beat all these different challenges, and just playing the content that we have in a specific way. It was really cool to watch. There was a lot of engagement in our community. They've done 2 so far, and it's just been really cool to see. There's there are a lot of rewards that people were winning for it. We were able to see like who kind of our best players are, who have like the best heroes and the best strategies. And that sort of thing is just, I love to see it, and I want to see more. So it's really cool that we could see things like that.
Yeah, I think just bouncing off that straight away, actually, we ran we had an idea that we wanted the community to be responsible for naming certain characters within our world, and we started it off as a bit of an experiment, and we had no idea if anyone would kind of go for it or not. And we gave them the assets, and we asked them to just read a bit of a narrative that surrounded the character, and could they come up with like a creation that would fit, whether that be a poster, whether that be a whatever it would be, but could they name the character at the same time? And we were a bit worried, because we kind of thought, well, not sure what we're going to get here. Is it going to fit with the lore? Is it going to be in keeping with kind of the wider build? But the response was just amazing. And in the end, that the community ended up naming all of a particular faction of creatures from our lore. And they were creating posters and content every week. That then snowballed into an event called Uforika Friday, which was never really kind of planned, but it just sort of happened off the back of that. So you're exactly right, Kim, when you talk about there's so much creativity and creators who just want to come into the space and create. And, we were able to then build some reward structures around that to support the initiative. And in the end, for us, extension of our team, we ended up with a whole bunch of creatures which were named by the community, which are seamlessly now factored into our lore and work perfectly. So it was just an amazing thing to witness.
That's so fun.
Yeah, and I'll add one little thing on our hand when it comes to Planet Mojo. Like there's a couple of things actually just happened, random through the Discord. Like first off, we have this mechanism with new seasons onto Mojo Melee. It's our auto chess battler, in which with each new season we introduce new features and new champions and so on and so forth, right? And just from general discussion, it sparked people would want a Lion champion, and there we go, new season that's coming along, 11th of July. We're gonna have the Lion champion that was asked for by the community. But on top of that, like just general discussion, some people were saying how the progression, like they were winning multiple games in a row, right? And thus the rank progression, so for the competitive mode in Mojo Melee was a little bit slower than they would expect. And that's where, the cross-pollination worked its magic, right? Because you have some people, already have experience with competitive systems from other games. Take, for example, League, take Valorant, take other stuff, in which when you progress and when you win multiple games in a row, something called MMR, that's matchmaking ranking, works its magic, in which you basically progress faster. You get more points for your rank because you're just having this win streak. And this is not shown anywhere but in the back end of the game, right? But we started talking about this, and the one thing came to another. And again, new season feature, right? Something came along, community feedback, we implement, and people are happy to not only see new features, but I guess it's obviously cool, right? To suggest something and see it implement and up and running in a game, right? So that's pretty cool and rewarding on both sides, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always amazing when the community can just take something and run with it. Like that's the best, when you don't even have to give all the guardrails. They know the brand so well, they know the game, they know what everyone else is looking for, and they can just take it, own it, and make something themselves. Another example is one of our community members, Toxic Waifu, has started doing like TikTok Tuesdays, where they go in and like all go to a green screen and like make TikTok content together just for fun. And it's been such a fun experience. And I think finding those native things that are happening and just amplifying and reaching out and saying like, how can we help you do this more? How can we help amplify what you're working on? Is the only way we can scale, because all three of us, like working in marketing and helping think about new users, like we can't do it alone. And the community is such a huge extension. So being able to just give them the tools, the resources, and the support in terms of amplification to make sure that all the work they're doing gets shared as well is just so much fun. I know we're coming up on time, but I would love to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite games to play? I know we heard Mario Kart. One of my favorite growing up was Duck Hunter. But just what games just bring that like nostalgic fun element to mind for you? It can be Web 2, like old school, or it could be something you're playing a lot lately in Web 3.
The other day, there was just by coincidence in a city near where I am, there was a kind of gaming exhibition, and what they did is you walked in this big hall and they had all of the old consoles and titles, and they split it out into zones, and it was just a huge trip down memory lane. Like, do you remember the game Paperboy? Do you remember that game where you would ultimately kind of, I mean, this is it's an old game, but you would cycle down a street and you literally just had to fling out the paper and try and aim for the kind of post box to get it in, and you'd have to avoid obstacles. Really simple, but really addictive. And then for me, my first console was a Sega Mega Drive. So titles like Sonic, bring back a lot of fond memories. Mario Kart definitely is up there for me. Wipeout, which is one of the references we made, which was actually a huge title in terms of culture for music. And I know, we discussed music a little bit earlier on as well, but I mean, that was awesome to play. There's so many. That's the amazing thing about gaming, right? There's just so many titles and so many different genres. Like GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64. I mean, what a title that was for introducing, split screen. And I mean, we could now spend the next hour going into this kit. I'm going to stop there because it's all coming back to me now.
So much for my last quick question. We're all diving deep into childhood. I was like, Tetris, like so basic, but so fun.
Tetris.
I'll pass it over to you, Hubert.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing games, so from the Nintendo era and up, just mostly RPGs, I'd say, are where I've spent most of my time. But though I like Paperboy and all those other ones that Simon just mentioned, I played those as well. The Final Fantasy series has a really special place in my heart. Anything by like Square Enix, the like Chrono Trigger, most of the stuff like Super Nintendo era especially, I think is where all of my nostalgia lies. But yeah, I mean, there's so many great games out there, and it's unfortunately, being an adult, it's like there's not enough time to play them anymore. But that's where especially for me, if there's a new RPG that looks really cool, I'm probably going to be playing it. So.
Yeah, and just I love Simon's take from before, right? Nostalgia and what we felt before playing these games. We always try and give a little bit of a touch from that of what we felt in what we do, right? Especially us in this industry. But yeah, when it comes to me, again, there's so many genres. But starting from RPGs and in general, like story-driven games, definitely Life is Strange is a big one for me, with Before the Storm and so on. When it comes to the more mainstream titles, I would say Halo Combat Evolved was something like just hooked me. Like everything from the landscapes to the gameplay to multiplayer, it was just something else. It's something I had never experienced before. MMORPGs, same thing. Shout out to whoever still plays Metin 2 these days. But yeah, so many genres, so much fun, and so much big, community was what you end up remembering, right? All the closed party games you had, and so on and so forth, was truly what you cherish looking back. And of course, the story and everything you learned from that. But yeah, that's why we're here in gaming in general, right? So bringing back, trying to give back at least a little bit of what we felt growing up.
Absolutely. And I love that you all had such a range of games that you played. And I could see how everyone ended up in this space. So we are at the hour mark already, which is amazing. Thank you all so much for joining. I want to give a few reminders to everyone. Our next live panel starts in about an hour, actually. The impact of AI on Web3 gaming. Then we have another one in 3 hours called So You Want to Launch a Web3 Game, all about tooling. And then in 4 hours, the official opening party. So we have a stacked day. Everyone is just getting warmed up in the Game Expo Plaza. So we'd love to see you all jump in 081. Go find all your wearables. I see a ton of people already have gotten theirs. Some emotes are out there to claim as well. And we have 4 days of this. So day 1, this is our first live stream panel. We are currently at 868 people have checked in. So thank you all so much for joining across the Decentraland, Uforika, DeFi Kingdoms, and Planet Mojo communities. We really appreciate everyone showing up for this. It was such a pleasure talking with you all. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Kim, and thanks Decentraland team. That was awesome. Great discussion. Thanks, Hubert. Thanks, Antonio. Real pleasure.
Yeah, and we'll have
Thank
to
you
set
for
up
having us.
some live stream plays in Decentraland or watching a tournament or something. Now that you have your booths, we could do so much with it. So we will stay in touch with everyone.
Sounds great. That'll be awesome. Looking forward to that. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. This is day 1 of a 4-day Game Expo in Decentraland, and we will see you in about an hour for our next panel. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.